Hello, class. My name is Gordon, and today I will be discussing postmodernism in children's literature through the works of David Wiesner, focusing on his 2001 picture, The Three Little Pigs. Through playful illustration and metafictional storytelling, Wiesner took a well-known fairy tale and turned it into a book that makes you think about how stories are put together and how meaning it is made. A little bit about David Wiesner. He's born February 5th, 1956, raised in Bridgewater Township, New Jersey, an American illustrator and writer of children's books, known best of pictures book, including some that tells story without words. As an illustrator, he has won 3 Cadillac Medal, recognizing the year's most distinguished American picture book for children. And he was one of the 5 finalists 2008 for the biennial International Hans Christian Andersen Award, the highest recognition available for creators of children's book. So what is postmodernism? According to the relevant chapter in our textbook by Wojciechowska, postmodernism is a difficult concept to define because it has been debated by scholars for decades. Rather than referring to a time, postmodernism is an artistic style characterized by playfulness, parody, fragmentation, and a tendency to question accept ideas and conventions. It appears across many fields, including literature, art, architecture, music, and philosophy. In the chapter, Mikhail explains postmodernism does not mean after the present, but rather represent a movement that developed after modernism. Ken Watson also described postmodernism picture books as books that break boundaries, abandon linear chronology, highlight the constructed nature of text, and blend or parody different genres. The Three Little Pigs demonstrate all of these characteristics. The story begins as the familiar fairy tale, but when the wolf blows the first pig out of the page, the pig literally escapes the story. Soon all the three pigs leave the narrative and travel through their other fictional worlds. As they move between stories, the illustration style changes to match each new narrative. This reminds the reader that books are constructed rather than fixed realities, which is different from traditional books. Readers must actively make connection between the different stories and decide how they fit together. Wiesner's creative style was shaped by both his childhood experience and his artistic influence. As a child, he spent much of his time exploring nature and creating imaginary adventure with friends, which helped develop his imagination. He also loved visiting the library where art books and natural history books inspired his interest in visual storytelling. Moreover, comic books played a major role in his development because they introduced him to storytelling through sequential images. Later, while studying arts, David McClellan mentor him and show him that the creative possibility of picture books. Wiesner was also inspired by Leon Ward's books, which convinced him that picture books were the perfect medium for telling stories through the images. Even today, Wiesner explained that every story begins with a visual idea. Rather than stories starting with words, he developed a story by drawing first and allowing the images to shape the narrative. The first audience for the Three Little Pigs should be children, especially readers in between ages of 4 and 7, since normally children are drawn into humor, adventure, and playful illustration. However, the books also speak to adults. Sandra Beckett argues that children's literature often addresses both child and adult audience simultaneously. This means that younger readers may enjoy the story itself, while teachers and parents may enjoy the literary reference and understand artistic techniques that are used in the book. Also, the text and illustration communicate on multiple levels, allowing the readers of different ages to discover different meanings. Was Wiseman's work successful? Yes, I think it is pretty successful. Why? But apparently both based on the Three Little Pigs won the 2002 catalog medal, continues to be widely studied and continue being used in classrooms. Its success can also be measured by its educational impact. According to Ryan and Anstey, postmodern picture books may help students learn more about self-knowledge in reading. As one of the postmodern books, the Three Little Pigs may help students use information in smart ways and they read. It also allows teachers to use texts that encourage students to draw upon their identities and use the knowledge to read strategically. Weiss's work is not completely original, but it is innovation. He used the well-known story of the three little pig, making his work partly derivative. He did, however, change the well-known fairy tale into a story about stories. This is what David Lewis said about postmodern fiction books. They let reader play around with the rules that makes fiction possible. The Three Little Pig is a particularly effective story that I think shows this idea very well. As mentioned earlier, Wiesner's pig leaves their story and go to the other imaginary worlds, which is different from traditional form of the fairy tale. Unlike John Squishcast, the true story of the Three Little Pigs, which only changes the perspective. Wiesner did a great job of taking the idea further by letting the characters leave the boundaries of their story. I think David Wiesner's work is significant because it changed our understanding of what picture books can do, and similarly, literary postmodernism provides lessons about how authors build stories and about their roles as readers. Beyond children's literature, Wiesner's work helped educators and researchers make visual literacy and critical thinking more important in the classroom. Before I started the project, I knew that standard story of the Three Little Pig, but I had never David Wiesner. So I will give myself 4 stars out of 5, since I always thought that picture books were mostly short stories for kids. After reading the Three Little Pigs and wrapping the idea of the story, it amazed me when a picture book could tell a well-known story in such a unique way. I liked it how pigs left their story and went into the other stories. It made me think about how books and can be written in a new way. Also, I found Rezenska's ideas about postmodern books interest me because it pushes readers to take part in the story instead of just following it. As an English tutor, I believe that books like the Three Little Pig could help students think outside of the box and share their own ideas instead of focusing on one answers. I will surely include this book as one of my lessons. Thank you for listening, and this is my reference.